Hello everyone. Well, yesterday was a pretty busy day for me. I started off the morning at the AXA training centre watching Liverpool go through their open training session ahead of the game against Bologna this evening, and then I hot-footed it over to Anfield for the press conference with Arne Slot and Alexis Mac Allister, and I'm here to give you my review of both of those events, tell you exactly how I think it all went down. But first, I wanted to be real for a second. There's a reason I'm recording this today, Wednesday, instead of Tuesday, and that's because I did record it on Tuesday, but I listened back to the footage and it just wasn't quite right. I've been paying attention to what a lot of you guys have been saying about the video quality and the audio quality of some of the videos I've put out so far, and I really wanted to make sure that this one was right. I got myself a brand new bit of equipment and I was ready to go. It's just, because it's a brand new bit of equipment, there's still a bit of teething problems. I'm still kind of getting to grips with it. So as I say, I look back at the footage and it wasn't quite right for you to use. There was some stuff that I thought was okay that I will be putting in this video, but the main bulk of the review of the training session and of the press conference I'm going to do from right here in my own home. But as I said, there are some footage that I can use, and I'm going to start with this, which is a compendium or a montage for people who are less fancy of the footage I got from the open training session yesterday morning. As you can see, the boys are all looking sprightly and ready for the big clash ahead against Bologna. I kind of made a little bit of an error in as much as I was very focused on whether or not Darwin Núñez was going to be back, and so pleased to see that he was back, that I didn't necessarily notice that Diogo Jota and Federico Chiesa weren't there until someone else pointed it out to me. Obviously, luckily enough, I had the chance to rectify that mistake by going to the press conference, where I'm sure that question was going to be asked and answered, and it was indeed. But regarding the training session itself, it always strikes me how much, when you get a group of footballers together, they actually do act like little kids. And yes, it was just mainly the warm-up drills and those kind of things, getting yourself loose, rather than any kind of real intense tactical information they were having to take in. But it was really, really evident how much this group enjoys each other's company. They were laughing, they were joking, but they were also very competitive, and I think that's really important as well. Some of the things that Arne Slot said in this press conference, which we'll cover later, really bore that out, that this group is hungry to be the best in whatever the competition may be, whether it's Champions League games, whether it's a sprint 10 yards while holding a tennis ball. They all want to win, and I think that can only benefit us in the long run as fans. So, that's my review of the open training session. Next up, it's time to talk about the press conference at Anfield. First up, Alexis Mac Allister.
Yes, I think for us it was very important to see the way we react. I think we did it very well. Of course, we worked on certain details, let's say, but what we didn't really like that game was the way we finished it. So yeah, we spoke about that. Everyone knew that it wasn't our best game, so we just tried our best to win the next one, and that's how it was.
It was great to hear from Mac Allister there, a growingly popular member of the squad within the fan base, as his new song will testify to, and within the dressing room as well, as the rumours that he has joined the leadership group will also testify to. In terms of what he had to say, he had some interesting comments to make about the big debate of the day regarding player welfare and are they playing too many games. His take was that regardless of where you sit within the debate, communication, better communication between the players, the coaches and the administrators is what's needed, and I think all of us can agree on that. One thing that has worried me though, someone pointed out to me yesterday that nearly everybody who's been asked about this subject and spoken about it has since got injured. We've had Rodri, we've had Son Heung-min, we've had Alisson, and then today Jurrien Timber got taken off during his Champions League game against PSG. So I'm hoping that Mac isn't now cursed, just as I'm hoping that he'll be able to put in a great performance again against Bologna. He also spoke about how he's playing this season, how much he's enjoying having freedom on the ball, which isn't to say that he didn't have freedom before. I think he was very keen to stress that there's not massive differences between the way that Arne Slot wants him to play and the way that Jurgen Klopp wants him to play. Obviously, one of the main differences is that he was a lot of the time spent as a number 6 in Jurgen Klopp's team, apart from the period of time when Wataru Endo was in the starting lineup, whereas now he's got Ryan Gravenberch alongside / behind him, so it does allow him a bit more freedom, as I say, on the ball to be able to go out and influence the attacks. But when it comes to defending, he was very keen to stress that there is still very much a lot of structure, a lot of hard work required, and maybe a lot less freestyling, which Arne Slot, when he came in, was very keen to stress as well, and was very pleased to hear Mac say that. Something else Mac mentioned was the fact that his desire to go deep in this Champions League run. We have to remember this is only his second ever Champions League game. We talk about how much he's won in the game, but all of that's with Argentina. He won the World Cup, obviously, the Copa America. But as a club footballer in England, he's still looking to find his first major trophy. Obviously, he was involved in the League Cup win last season. I'm sure he's got a medal for that, but he wants more. And Champions League nights are very different, aren't they? They're the pinnacle when it comes to club football. So you can sense that he was really excited to be involved in it, and he says he dreamed about winning it. And I'm sure he's heard plenty of the stories about those who have won it within the dressing room, and he wants to join in with that as well. Someone else who was very keen to get the dressing room pumped up was Arne Slot. And let's hear what he had to say.
A pity for us, but of course for him even more. He was looking forward to a Champions League night at Anfield, and especially because we face an Italian team, it's a pity for him, but he will be there many more nights to come for him.
Now, of course, Arne's first duty was to update us on those two absentees in Diogo Jota and Federico Chiesa. And it was a case of good news and bad news there. Jota had missed 2 training sessions, including on Tuesday morning, but Slot expects him to be available for selection. That probably means he'll end up on the bench because, as I mentioned, Darwin Núñez took a full part in training and the expectation is that he will start in the number 9 position. For Chiesa, it wasn't quite as good news. He'd been fine, but then he arrived at the training ground on Monday, I believe, with a problem, and so they've had to rule him out for this game. They can't necessarily say how long he'll be out for because it's just a very new problem. They haven't really had scans in order to properly assess it, but it's a real shame for him because it sounds like he was in line for a start as well against a fellow Italian team in which he knew very well. So as I say, it's a real shame for him. One hopes that this is not the start of a few niggling injuries because obviously this was one of the main concerns some people had. In fact, it was the only concern anybody had about signing a player of the quality of Chiesa was that we have to be able to keep him fit, and fingers crossed we will be able to over the course of this long season. Now, Slot was asked also about his difference between Champions League nights and normal games, and does he prepare any differently, and he said no, he didn't. He said it would be a real problem if he did, if he treated this as any better or any more important than any of the other games. And obviously there are certain platitudes managers always say, but I looked in his eyes and I have to say I believed him. I do think that he treats every single competition with as much intensity and as much priority as they deserve, and those kind of standards and habits run through the side. Speaking of standards, the question I asked him was kind of a little bit alluded to that, or should I say his answer alluded to that. I asked him about something that he said in the aftermath of the game against Wolves.
Hi Arne, I'm interested in something you said after the game against Wolves in which you were unhappy with the final minutes of the game in particular, which kind of surprised me because I don't think Wolves had a shot on goal after the 75th minute. So I'm wondering if your unhappiness was more to do with the missed opportunities on the break to go out and kill the game, and how important you think maintaining an attacking threat is when you're trying to protect a slender lead in a game like that.
Yeah, you already gave the answers inside your question. So you can also sit on this chair maybe next time. It's exactly what you say. We haven't conceded anything in the last 15 minutes. Hardly in the second half. I think they only had 2 shots in the whole second half. But we lost in promising situations. We lost the ball before it led to a chance. And we lost the ball a few times really easy before it even got to a promising situation. And I think we as a team, if you have that much quality, we cannot accept mediocrity. Is that?
Yes,
yeah. You have to ask from yourself every second of the day, every second of the game, the highest standards that this shirt brings. And we as a staff have to set those standards very clear. And that 15 minutes where we lost the ball so many times in promising position, or moments that could lead to promising positions, is, maybe not acceptable is the word to use. Yeah.
As you can imagine, it's very pleasing to hear Arne Slot say he thought I could be a coach. Not sure I could mind. But the main thing there is that I'm glad to see that he and I were on the same page in terms of what it was that made him unhappy about Wolves and how important it is to be able to kill teams off when you have the opportunities. That whole idea of mediocrity not being accepted, high standards coming from not just the coaching staff but from the players themselves, it's another thing that's going to be really important as we go through this season, trying to compete on all 4 fronts. And I think he'll be probably pleasantly surprised with what he's got within his dressing room in terms of people who hold themselves and their teammates accountable, because there were plenty of players who weren't happy about how Wolves went down, despite the fact that we got the 3 points. So I would expect a very much improved performance against Bologna this evening. Something else that Arne Slot wanted to mention as well was the atmosphere at Anfield, something that's always a debate amongst fan bases as long as I've been a Liverpool fan, frankly. He was asked about what it's like on European nights at Anfield and had he heard all the stories about how fantastic he is, and he said he'd heard them. Obviously he's experienced European nights of Feyenoord, but he wanted the Anfield crowd to show him why we talk about this so much. He wanted them to be burning because they have a year out. And he said the same about his players. He wanted to be able to feel the hunger and the anger that they had of missing out last season and coming back into this and showing that they belong in the Champions League and that they are one of the teams who can go out and win the Champions League. It's the first time he's really kind of laid down a gauntlet to the fans as opposed to his own players. And he wasn't quite saying, you better be up for it in the way that Jurgen sometimes did. It was more like, I'm hoping to see something. In other words, if you guys are so special, why don't you show me? More straight talking from my manager without necessarily being antagonistic, which I always enjoy. And frankly, I do believe that he is becoming a really, really important communicator to the fan base. I think people were so keen to look for the symbols of the man we had previously. They haven't really been paying attention to what it is that Slot's given us. He's given us detailed answers, he's given us honesty, he's given us a few jokes as well, but he's also given us a bit of a kick up the backside when we need it. And I think all of those things combined make it a really, really good start for him as Liverpool manager. Hopefully that will continue on the pitch. Now, I will be at Anfield this evening. I will be continuing my coverage. I will be sitting up in the gods, in the gantry, along with all the other radio broadcasters. I will be bringing my camera and I will be attempting to take some more footage. Hopefully this lot goes better than the last one. But thank you all for watching. I'll give you a review of the game when I get home.